Hi everyone, this is Gleb Bakhmutov, and today I want to show a nice Cypress trick that I use sometimes to get around timing and flake, especially on CI. As an example, I'll take this component test. It mounts a team component. This one is quick framework, but it doesn't really matter. This tip applies to component and end-to-end tests. And I want to verify that if you click on this trash can icon, that it calls a stub that I pass called onDeleteTeam. And I don't have a real function, so I'm passing a stub and I give that stub an alias delete. Now the thing about clicking on the button and the framework calling that prop onDeleteTeam is that it doesn't happen instantaneously. There might be an asynchronous processing there under the hood. And if I go and I grab the alias, right, to this particular stop, delete, right, if I go there and I look at spies and stubs, well, here it happens very quickly, but in reality, this stub is created only when I click on a button, and it might take a couple of milliseconds to create this. And if this cy.get aliasName is executed before the app creates that alias by calling onDeleteTeam, then Cypress immediately throws an error and fails the test. And this is noticeable in this project when I run this on CI because the timing is different when you run the tests on CI. Here's the screenshot, and notice right here we clicked on the button when we checked that things are visible. We're trying to check the delete alias. It fails to get that alias, and only after that in the command log we can see that that stub function was called, which leaves us in a bind how to better fix this. One way is to just simply wait, I don't know, for a second or 500 milliseconds or even 100 milliseconds before we try to access the alias. And let's say we say 500, and that should be plenty. And just to simulate this, I'll go to my component and let's see, is the test passing right now? If I run it locally, it's passing, perfect, waits 500. But for example, if I set timeout and call onDeleteTeam after, let's say, 600 milliseconds, well, that's the error we see on CI. And so we don't want to wait, we don't know how long to wait. Instead, what we want to do is we want to guarantee that by the time we call cy.get aliasName, that alias is present or exists. So we have to look under the hood of Cypress. The best way to see everything Cypress is doing is to take the large Cypress, the static object, and call the state method on it, because it has references to everything Cypress is doing during runtime, and it keeps it after the end of a test. And in this case, notice the aliases property is an object that just keeps all the alias values, including some under the hood details and runtime information like the chain of commands creating that alias. What we want to do before we call cy.get at delete, we want to confirm that cy.state includes in its object aliases at delete property. That's how easy it is. So it's a little bit of implementation detail, but it is worth it. The only thing we have to be careful is we can't just say expect Cypress.state. We have to confirm that we checked only after cyclic has executed. So we can do a couple things. We can use cylog and then maybe cythen and confirm that cy.state aliases. Or my favorite way is to wrap the object that is not changing, which is Cypress, and then use Cypress command like invoke state, right? Because this will execute only after cyclic has finished and all the previous Cypress command finish. So in this case, invoke state, it returns a large object, and we know its aliases and delete, and we can just say should exist. And we can use multiple assertions. We can just say its aliases should have key or should have property, but we just say aliases.delete using dot notation to access a nested property, we can just say should exist. So let's see how it works. Notice it retried and retried under its. Let me just increase this a little bit, maybe like say 2.5 seconds. Now notice it keeps checking if a delete is present, and then it uses the cy.get add delete alias, and everything is fine. So this is one way of avoiding hard-coded waits. We can check if Cypress test object, state object, has an alias existing before we try to access it.